Hey guys, in this video I'm comparing the brand new Sony 16 to 55mm f2.8 G lens to the kit lens. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. So Sony released the 16 to 55 G lens about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, and I have done a review on this, so definitely check out that video if you haven't seen that already. But I thought it would be interesting to compare it to the kit lens just to establish a baseline. I've compared every other faster walk-around lens, including the Zeiss 16 to 70, including the 18 to 105G, including the 18 to 135, to this little $100 kit lens. And it is pretty interesting to see just how much better these lenses are than the humble kit lens. So here is what the kit lens looks like mounted on my A6500. You guys have seen this lens 1,000 times before. It extends as you power it on. Compact, it's a pancake. Let's move on. Here is the 16 to 55mm G lens. It's noticeably larger and heavier than the kit lens, obviously, but it is a very compact lens for a constant f2.8. It looks much more premium, it looks much more expensive. You can see the front lens element is significantly larger, and this lens does extend as you move closer and closer to that 55mm limit. When it comes to build quality, there really is no comparison between this 16 to 55 and this kit lens. The kit lens feels like a toy in comparison to this very nice feeling, very premium feeling lens from Sony. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. All right, so I'm going to try to run through these pictures relatively quickly. The first one here is a portrait of my wife at 50mm. I'm going to keep all of the 16 to 55 images on the left and all of the 16 to 50 kit lens images on the right. And let's punch in to see which one of these images is sharper. So right away you can see the 16 to 55 is definitely blowing the kit lens out of the water in terms of sharpness, color accuracy. Colors are more realistic. See, there's more detail in the hair. Not surprising that the 16 to 55 is better here, but just by how much is what we're really looking at. This next shot is done at the wide end at 16mm on both lenses, f5.6, so stop down, at least on the 16 to 55. Punch in, and again, same story. So the 16 to 55 is definitely sharper here. Again, better colors, a little bit more detail, highlights. But so far from the wide end and the telephoto end, the 16 to 55 is definitely noticeably sharper. This next shot is done at 20mm, f4 on both lenses, and you'll see my wife is here in the frame. Let's punch in and take a look at both. Not a great image when it comes to focusing because she's turned to the side, so the camera is trying to focus on the eye, but it wasn't able to focus on her eye, so it just focused on her face. And you can see that the kit lens just looks really pretty bad here. 16 to 55 is still a usable image, but it's not brilliant either. And there's much more detail in these leaves around her than there is with the kit lens. So pretty significant difference there. From the standpoint of focusing, the 16 to 55mm lens does an even better job than the 16 to 50 kit lens, which already does a great job. This next shot is done at 30mm on both lenses. The settings are completely different though, so wide open on the 16 to 55 and wide open on the kit lens. And you can see pretty clearly here that it is sharper at f2.8 than the kit lens is at f5, at least at 30mm. So it's a significant, clear, easy victory for the 16 to 55. Look at the hair detail. That'll tell the whole story. So this next shot is again of my wife at 30mm on both lenses, same settings, f5. This is a pretty challenging shot because of the bright backdrop. You have the sunlight that you get in the background. So I was curious to see how these two lenses did with backlight. And again, same story here. Look at how much sharper, how much more detail there is with that 16 to 55 lens. I mean, the kit lens is fine if you're just posting to social media, but there is no comparison between these two shots here. This next shot is a close-up portrait of my wife done at 40mm on both lenses, wide open. So effectively, if you took auto settings and you just went out and shot with your camera, this is the difference that you can expect. Again, the kit lens isn't great after, about 25 millimeters or so. It's shooting at f5 and higher, which is really not that great for portrait work, whereas you have a constant f2.8 with the 16 to 55. So let's punch in and see. The 16 to 55 is definitely sharper, and the skin tones again are better. Now, just to demonstrate the out of focus areas, here's what the bokeh looks like. So nice and creamy with the 16 to 55 versus, at f5.6, the bokeh isn't amazing. There's not a whole lot of subject separation with this shot, but there is a whole lot with this shot. So let me show you side by side. So here's the kit lens. Here's the 16 to 55, again, kit lens, and 16 to 55. It is pretty amazing that the 16 to 55 is this sharp wide open. A lot of Sony lenses aren't great wide open, but for it to be sharper at f2.8 than the kit lens at f5.6 is an accomplishment on its own. Before I show you the rest of these sample photos, I wanted to talk about today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build a professional website, online store, or portfolio. It is super duper easy to claim a domain and URL. You can purchase it through Squarespace. There are a ton of free templates to choose from, and in about 45 minutes, I was able to get my own personal website up and running with really no difficulty whatsoever. One great feature about Squarespace is their appointment scheduling. If you're doing some sort of photography work and you want your clients to see when you're available and when they can book you, you can easily coordinate your calendars without any hassle. Head over to squarespace.com for your free trial, and once you're ready to launch, you could head over to squarespace.com/ArthurR to receive 10% off your website or domain. Now let's go back to the comparison. All right, so this next one is a landscape shot done at 24 millimeters on both lenses. This is f8. So this is where I want to see how sharp these lenses are across the frame. So I'm going to start in the center. This doesn't look too different yet. Let's move out into the corners and see some detail in this tree. So this difference is pretty easy to see. Nice clear outline of this tree with the 16 to 55, whereas the kit lens seems to struggle a bit to create a sharp image here. Even more so with the tree that's in the background here, you can see just how soft it is on the edge of the frame, whereas the 16 to 55 looks nice and sharp. Let's move over to this side, and again, similar story. 16 to 55 is ever so slightly sharper. This next shot is also a landscape. This is done at 35 millimeters f8 on both lenses. Punch into this house here. If there is much of a difference. Not a whole lot actually. Looks pretty similar. Let's take a look at the rest of the frame. This tree, you start to notice a difference, and especially in these leaves. 16 to 55 is maintaining that sharpness to the edges and the corners. Kit lens, I cannot say the same. All right, let's move over to the left side of the frame. Wow, huge difference here. So take a look at the detail in the trees here versus it's kind of blending and becoming very soft. This next shot here is done on the wide end 16 millimeters on both lenses. Settings are the exact same. This is stopped down to 6.3. What was interesting to me is you could see a little bit more of the sun rays with the 16 to 55. Larger front lens opening may be a factor here, but the sun rays look great with this lens. The kit lens doesn't look as amazing. That's not the idea behind this photo. I just wanted to see what the details look like. So chromatic aberration starting to pop up here. The 16 to 55 does have a little chromatic aberration. You could probably tell on the very edge, but it is very, very well controlled. Versus you get a very soft image, a lot of chromatic aberration here. Color of the sky also isn't necessarily accurate here. You can see that the corner on this kit lens image is like a darker blue, and as I move over it gets a lighter blue. That's vignetting. When you compare it side by side to the image from the 16 to 55, look at how much brighter this corner is. That darker blue sky is simply vignetting with the kit lens. You don't get nearly as much of it with the 16 to 55. And again, this is nice and sharp. This is soft and not very great. A couple more portraits here. So this is again my wife, 35mm on both lenses. If you were shooting auto settings, this is the difference that you would see. You're shooting at 1/400 of a second, which is amazing for handheld. 1/80 is a little bit more difficult at 5.6 on that kit lens. But let's take a look at sharpness. Again, pretty clear winner. You can see just more detail in the skin. Colors are better. You get richer blacks here as well. This is a little bit more washed out, the glasses. And hair detail. Look at that. There's also a little bit more contrast with the 16 to 55, even at f2.8, and a whole lot more background blur, bokeh. Look at the difference there. So overall, this is a better image. Take a look at the bokeh here in the corner, just so you can see the difference. That's a nice looking bokeh. The kit lens f5.6 isn't amazing. Now, the 16 to 55 is letting in a whole lot more light. Now, to demonstrate how much more light, I took these two images side by side. So this is what would happen if you use the exact same settings on both lenses. The only difference is you're shooting f5.6, which is, again, wide open on that kit lens, versus f2.8, which is wide open on the 16 to 55. So here's the 16 to 55. And here's the kit lens. So that is how much more light that 16 to 55 lens is letting in. Here's another wide shot. This is done at 16mm f3.5 on both lenses. My wife is standing in front of a busy, just really busy background. So I focused on her hair, and 16 to 55 nailed it. I mean, it looks amazing here. A whole lot of detail, a lot of things happening in the foreground and the background, but everything looks nice and sharp even at f3.5. Kit lens, this looks really soft for some reason, even in the center of the frame. As I move out, you'll see just how much more detail that 16 to 55 captures. I mean, take a look at the difference here in the corners. That is huge. And it doesn't matter where I look. If I look at this corner, I mean, huge difference there. If I look at this corner, huge difference there. If I look at this corner, again, significant difference here. So the 16 to 55 is undoubtedly better and sharper at 16mm. This next shot, many of you probably saw on my Instagram. This is a portrait of my wife, done at 50mm on both lenses. This is done at f5.6, so stop down on the 16 to 55. And again, I'm just confirming here in different situations. Look at the detail, wow. So this shot from the 16 to 55 lens on the left is truly spectacular. It's something that I would expect from, you know, the Sigma 56. Just look at the sharpness, look at the detail, look at the skin tones. This is amazing. The kit lens just, I mean, it looks so much less professional. There's so much less detail, so much less contrast, skin tones, not as bright. I mean, there's a whole lot of reason why this shot is inferior. What's really surprising about the 16 to 55 lens is just how well it does wide open. That's one of the themes that you're probably seeing throughout this comparison. If you look at the shot on the left, it's wide open at f2.8. If I zoom into this, take a look at that detail. You just saw a shot at f5.6 that was super sharp. This shot at f2.8 is just as sharp. It just really does an amazing job for portraits. The kit lens, you really can't compare at all. So this was the actual shot that I uploaded to my Instagram. It was the 16 to 55 lens, and this is what you would have seen from the kit lens. So pretty stark difference between the two, if you ask me. All right, so that is it for the side-by-side comparison between these two lenses. Now, we all knew that the 16 to 55 was going to be sharper and better than the kit lens. It was just a matter of how much. And I have to say, that I've looked back through my footage of comparing this kit lens to the 18-105 to the 18-135, and in those comparisons the difference was definitely not as large. Out of all of my shots that I took with both of these lenses side by side, there wasn't a single one that was better with the kit lens, and I can't say that about all of my other comparisons. Now, part of that has to do with the focus accuracy and the speed of the 16-55. It truly is one of the best focusing all-around lenses that Sony has produced, or at least that I've tried from Sony. It's silent, like you probably have seen in my review video. It's very quick, it's very accurate, and it's even more accurate and faster than the kit lens, which was already very good to begin with. So truly am impressed with this lens so far. The more and more that I use it, the more I like it. Now, the true test of the 16-55mm performance is going to be when I compare this thing to the Sigma Trio, the Sigma 16, Sigma 30, and Sigma 56, which will be in an upcoming video, hopefully a couple of days from now. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and support. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of this comparison, and stay tuned for more. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.